What's up guys, Justin here for Team Shenanigans, back again with a new Royal Paladin deck profile. This is my updated blaster deck post GB11. Foregoing all the Alfreds and the Thing Savers and the MLBs and just gone pure blasters with the new amazing grade 3 Lu. Just a great utility card. So as you can see, I've got the deck spread out and everything, but I'm just going to get into some of the cards. Everybody run 4 copies of the Blaster Blade Exceed. Everybody knows what he does. He's your Stride Breaker. Use him to search out any Blaster Blade from your deck whenever you stride a Saver unit on top of him. So of course, remember it doesn't work with every Stride, but generally you're going to always be going into Saver Strides, unless it's just a weird game. But yeah, and he also has the ability to CB1 when he's placed on Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle to retire a grade 1 or higher on your opponent's turn. on your opponent's field. So 4 of that, and then 4 of the new amazing utility grade 3 new style Blaster Lu. This guy is, whenever he is placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, you may choose a card with Blaster Blade in its name from your drop zone, put it on the bottom of your deck, and this guy will get power +5 until the end of turn. Also, as long as you had a Alfred or a Blaster Vanguard, he gets Intercept and 5k shield. So he is basically never a dead card. You can use him as Stride Fodder since he's a grade 3. You can use him to make power columns since he gets +5k power the turn you place him. And you can always intercept him off whenever you need to call a grade 2 Lu or a Blaster Blade to the field. So never a dead card, and just provides a lot of nice utility to the deck. And being able to recycle your Blaster Blades is very good. Next, 4 copies of the bread and butter of the deck, of course, OG Blaster Blade. Everybody knows what he does. You play him at 4 because you have to. And it's the only countercharging engine with him and Barkall. So all the combos revolve around this guy. Next, 3 copies of Blaster Blade Spirit. We run him at 3 because he is a 10k, and he also has Blaster Blade in his name. So you can search him out with Lu, you can search him out with Exceed, you can put him back in the deck with the grade 3 Lu, you can search him out with Wingall Brave if you need to ride him. This is going to be your turn 2 ride target, so your opponent can't grade 2 rush you. They can't just poke at you with 9ks. The 10k base is really nice. And whenever it's placed on Rearguard from the deck, CB1 and retire something. I believe it has to be grade 2 or higher in the front row. Yeah. So, very good card. Next, 4 copies of Light and Darkness Lu. This is your guy that just goes and fetches you extra attacks whenever he's boosted by a Barkall or a Flogel. He gets +3k power. And the skill Counterblast 1 at the end of the battle, put him in the soul, search your deck for a Blaster unit, a grade 2 with Blaster in its name, and call it to Rearguard. So, unlocks all your multi-attacks and everything, can really help you go fetch out a Blaster Blade, and then restand it with Flogel, and you will always get that Counterblast back, as long as you've rode a Blaster unit. So, as long as you didn't ride a Lu, when you call the Lu and do all your skills, you're always going to get that Counterblast back, as long as there was a Barkall behind it. So nice 19k turn 2 columns, extra attacks, and then basically for free, because Barkall will countercharge. Next, 4 copies of the new PG, Lian. It can only guard the Vanguard, and it has to be placed from hand to the Guardian Circle, so you can't use it with the new Marin PG that calls from deck. So whenever it's placed from hand to Guardian Circle, you may Soul Blast 1, and on the turn that your Vanguard was attacked, Soul Blast 1, and that card cannot be hit. So it's a PG you don't have to discard for, with just the restriction it has to be placed from from hand and can't be placed from deck, but that's the case with all the G-era PGs. You have to go back to OG PGs to get into that. And you have to maintain your soul is the only thing. You don't want to just be soul blasting randomly. That's why when you construct this deck, you really want to make sure you're not running really anything that soul blasts. You can afford to run like one Murad Saber Stride if you want to, like I do right now, just because I only have one Gant slot, but I'll get into that in a minute. Because there are a lot of things that soul charge. Lu goes into soul, you can put Margol into soul, you can put this crit into soul, Wingull Brave goes into soul, so yeah. Next, 4 copies of Barkall. As long as you have a Blaster Vanguard, when a Blaster Blade is placed in the same column as it, countercharge 1. So this is your unflipping engine. Great 7k booster, has Blaster in the name, so it works with Wingull Brave, and it's your ideal booster for loot. Next, 3 copies of Wingull Youth. Whenever an attack hits a Vanguard where this unit attacked or boosted, look at the top 7 cards of the deck, search for one card with Blaster Blade in its name from among them, so you can only be one of these 3, and add it to your hand. If you do, this card goes into soul, so another card that goes into soul. And very good searching, like early game utility and such. For Stride Fodder, your extra grade 2s, your Spirit so you can ride it. Very good. And next, 3 copies of Sisylas, because it's your Stride Fodder, and striding is important, and you want to make sure you can always stride in this deck, like any Jira deck. Next, in the triggers, run 8 crit. Run the Flocal Crit just because Restanding Blaster Blade is really nice. Multi-attacks, multi-attacks, multi-attacks. And it goes back in the deck for CB1. So everyone knows what that does. Next, instead of running the Altmile Crit, I've chose to run the new crit, Erangel. It's basically a Flame of Victory / Margol clone. Just shove it in the soul, give something +3. I'm running it just because I never really want to be striding into Altmile, so there's no reason to really run the Altmile crit. I would rather have this, where if I absolutely need enough soul for my Liens or something, I can just shove this in soul. And if I have this in hand and I'm trying to kill my opponent and I want to make a power column, yeah. Same thing goes with Margol. Use it the same way, except it's just a draw trigger, and draw triggers are nice in this deck. You can go 12 crit. I've considered it, but I found that the foil draws tend to, at the cost of my opponents, really come to me when I need them, and I love damaging them, and I damage them all the time. Next, 4 heals. You can run the Fighters Collection heal. I just don't have any, and I really like the Elaine art. It's really nice. And the starter is Wingull Brave. It's really the only starter you can run for this deck super effectively, just because the pure utility it gives and the on-hit pressure early game. A lot of times your opponents will want to guard this to keep you from searching out the pieces you want, and that'll force them into odd situations where they want to pass when they could be conserving that card in hand, and then you hit a trigger and break through it, and you're just plussing for days at that point. Next, we're going to go into the G-Zone. Alright, going into the G-Zone, we're going to start off with all the Saber Strides, which these are the strides you really want to be going into to get all your plussing off of Blaster Blade Exceed by adding the extra card to your hand after you stride. So, right now I only have 1 copy of Gant slot. This will be 3, and the Saint Blows will be coming out. The Saint Blows are just in there because I didn't feel like I needed to run 4 Altmile on this, because I never want to be going into it anyway. So, Gant slot is when it attacks, as long as you have an Alfred or Blaster Heart, you countercharge 1. And then this card gets Drive +1, and if you have a face-up card in your G-Zone, it gets Crit +1. So this is always going to be your first stride, just because the pure bustedness. It's free quad drive, and a counter charge, and you can very easily use some counter blasts before you swing with this to make sure you have something to counter charge when you swing. And even if it is your first stride, if you G-guarded before you went into this, it's getting a crit for free. So that's why I definitely recommend running at least 2. I will definitely be running 3 when I get my other 2. Next, for Alfred, this is your card that you'll always be going into this twice after your Gancelot and just pushing really hard on your opponent and stacking as much crits on that Blaster Blade as you can and restanding. So, at skill, Counterblast 1, unflip a copy of this, and discard a card from your hand. Choose a unit with Blaster Blade in its name on your field, give it power +3 and Twin Drive for the first time it attacks your opponent's Vanguard. So, you want to be putting it on a Blaster Blade. You can put it on an Exceed rearguard column, just to make it a 21k column with a 7k booster behind it. But usually you'll be putting it on a Blaster Blade to make the Blaster Blade swing for 12 by itself and be restanding it with a Flogel. It really just depends on your setup and the current situation. But busted card. Next, 4 copies of Religious Soul Saver. This is just if you pushed your opponent to 3 or 4 and you know they don't have a PG and you haven't G-guarded, so Gancelot's not going to get the crit. If you have the full setup for this, it can pump 3 units on your field by 5 for just 1 counterblast and unflipping a copy of itself, and give itself a crit, as long as you have a Blaster Heart and 2 blasters and Soul. So if you rode a Barkall, then a Blaster Blade, and then an Exceed, and you stride into this, you can really punish your opponent in games very fast. Plus it has Saber in the name, so you get this guy's handy-dandy effect off, just like the first 2. Next, 1 copy of Murad Soul Saver. Still a really good card. You have to be very careful since I run 4 copies of Lien in here. I only do this if I have enough cards to put back into Soul to use my Liens. But you have the lose, you have the crit triggers, you have the draw triggers, you have the Wingall Youths, the Wingall Braves, to all go in Souls, so you generally have enough Soul to go around. This guy's ability is when he swings, you Soul Blast 3, and give +5 to up to 5 rear guards. So you just pump your entire field up by 5, just for Soul Blast 3. Very, very good. And again, it has Saber in the name, so works with this guy. Next, the last 4 strides, I run 2 Alt Mile and 2 Saint Blow. Alt Mile's just there for if it's a grind game, you don't have any counterblast to work with, you can just stride into this guy, flip him up, get a free grade 2 out from the deck, give it +5, and your front row gets +3. If you have limited counterblast or you've gone through all your Alfreds, Alt Mile's not a bad option. Still a pretty good stride. It's still decently expensive for a reason. It's easily the most splashable stride in Royal Paladins. And the 2 Saint Blow, just, he gets pretty big if you have a full field and gets a crit, as long as you have 3 or more rear guards. Like I said, he'll definitely be coming out for 2 more Gancelots, because if you have access to Gancelot, there's absolutely no reason to run this. Then the G-Guards run 1 Assault, Counterblast 1, and it gets +5k shield for each rear guard on your field. So for CB1, it can get really huge, and basically it's a PG as long as the attack isn't just stupidly enormous like a D-Police attack. Next, 1 copy of Marin. When it's placed on Guardian Circle, you can Soul Blast 1, search your deck for a grade 1 or higher, and call it to Guardian Circle. So if you want, you can just run 3 Lien and run 1 like Old Assault or just an old school PG that doesn't have to be called from hand. And you can basically turn this into a Soul Blast 1 for a PG. But, I don't know. I really like the Liens and knowing I'm never going to have to discard a card to PG. So she's just really nice if you don't have a grade 2 on the front row, like if you're going up against Kagero or Narukami, and if you're trying to conserve your counterblast, he can get you like an extra shield from the deck. Also, the card she calls out does get plus 5k shield, so you're just getting a free 10k shield out from the deck. Next, 2 Laser Guard Dragons. Just as long as you have a grade 2 on the field, it gets plus 5k shield. So, just simple 20k G-Guard. But yeah, that's the deck, guys. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Justin for Team Shenanigans, signing out. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date on everything Team Shenanigans.